Fortress Besieged is a long novel by Mr. Qian Zhongshu, and a unique satirical novel that occupies a place in the history of modern Chinese literature. It was first published in 1947 by Shanghai Morning Glory Press. Although little attention was paid to it when it was first published, since its reprinting in 1960, it has not only been well received by readers and reprinted many times, but has also been translated into English, French, German, Russian, and many other editions and distributed worldwide. Even today, 70 years after the novel's publication, we can still find Besieged City on the bestseller lists. The book focuses on the intellectuals during the early years of the war, and the author provides a detailed analysis of the intellectuals of the time. The title of the novel, The Besieged City, refers to the predicament Fang Hongzhan is in. He encounters many difficulties and challenges in his life, including the conflict between his marriage and his wife, his professional relationship with his boss, and his identity and status in society. These problems are portrayed in a very vivid and profound way, showing the fate and situation of a young Chinese man at that time. The novel is narrated in a very unique way, using a narrative style called polyphony. This approach allows the reader to hear the voices and viewpoints of different characters, thus providing a fuller understanding of the story and the characters' personalities. At the same time, the language of the novel is also very beautiful and subtle, poetic and philosophical, a classic literary work. The social criticism and ideological inspiration in the novel. The novel is a profound critique and reflection on various problems and phenomena in Chinese society at the time, such as social classes, cultural traditions, and interpersonal relationships, which play an important role in understanding the novel's theme and storyline. At the same time, the novel also brings people profound thoughts and reflections, such as thoughts and expressions on freedom, responsibility, and choice, which can cause people to resonate and think deeply. Through the social criticism and thoughtfulness of the novel, we can better understand and think about various problems and phenomena in human society, and better reflect on our own life and values. The story of the walled city takes place in the 1920s and 1940s. Fang Hongzhan, the main character, is a young man from a family of southern Chinese gentry. Due to family pressure, he is engaged to a woman from the same village as Zhou. But during his college years, Zhou falls ill and dies early. Mr. Zhou, his father-in-law, was moved by Fang's letter of condolence and sponsored him to study abroad. Fang Hongzhan neglected his studies during his European tour. In order to give an explanation to her family, Fang bought a fictitious doctoral certificate from Clayton University before her graduation and returned to China with the foreign student. On the boat, she met and fell in love with Ms. Bao, a foreign student, but was cheated by her. At the same time, he also met his college classmate, Su Wenda. After arriving in Shanghai, he works in a bank run by his late fiancé's father, Mr. Zhou. At this time, Fang gains the goodwill of his classmate Su Wenming and falls in love with Su's cousin Tang Xiaofu at first sight. He spends his days dealing with Su and Tang, and meets Zhao Xinfei, who is pursuing Su Wenwan. Fang finally ends his relationship with Su and Tang. Su marries the poet Cao Yuanlong, and Zhao realizes that Fang is not his rival, so he has a crush on Fang. The relationship between Fang and the Zhou family becomes more and more difficult. At the beginning of the war, Fang's family fled to the Shanghai concession. Under the recommendation of Zhao Xinfiao, Sun Zhuojia, Gu Erqian, and Li Meiding joined Zhao Xinfiao to teach at Sanlu University in the mainland. Due to the weakness of Fang Hongzhan's character, she gets into complicated interpersonal disputes. Later, she gets engaged to Sun Zhuojia and leaves Sanlu University to return to Shanghai. With the help of Zhao Xinfei, Fang works at a newspaper and marries Sun Zhuojia. After the marriage, the conflict between Fang and his wife, Fang's family, and Sun's aunt's family is exposed and intensified. Fang resigns from his job and quarrels with Sun and gradually loses hope in life. The siege contains profound ideological connotations. The first is social criticism. Through the life story of Fang Hongzhan, the main character, the work criticizes the political ills and the lives of people in the Kuomintang-controlled areas in the 1930s and 1940s, including the corruption and backwardness of Shanghai's ocean-going commercial ports and the isolation of the inland rural areas, as well as the impact on education, knowledge, and life. It also mocks the corruption in the world. The second is at the level of cultural criticism. This is achieved mainly through the portrayal of the New Confucianism, which portrays a group of returned foreign students or senior intellectuals. Most of the characters in the Besieged City suffer from foreignism, but traditional culture still plays a dominant role in their bones. Fang Hongzhan is one of the characters in New Confucianism who still has a sense of righteousness. He went abroad to study in order to honor his ancestors, just as he spent money to donate to officials in the former Qing dynasty. His cowardly character and tragic ending are the result of traditional culture. The vulgarity, triviality, boredom, vanity, and aggressiveness of Li Meeting, Han Suiyu and Gao Songnian are also the products of traditional culture. It is not necessary to mention the feudal villain, Fang Dunhuang, or the submissive son Ruojia, who has a hidden agenda, but still has the face of an old-fashioned woman. Through the analysis of these morbid characters, the work makes a profound reflection on and criticism of traditional Chinese culture. The third level is the philosophical reflection on the life and destiny of modern people, which goes deeper into the metaphysical level of human-centeredness, such as the exploration of the basic state of human existence and the fundamental meaning of life, the fundamental root of human beings and the relationship between human beings. The main connotation of the siege is that those who are surrounded by the city want to escape, while those outside the city want to rush in, whether it is marriage or career, and most of the wishes in life. The novel also repeatedly points out that life is a walled city everywhere, with no end to knots and divorces, no end to departures and knots, and an eternity of confusion and dilemmas. The issues raised in Siege are related to the crisis of the whole modern civilization and the dilemma of modern life, and have universal significance. Apart from the city of marriage, city of career and city of self are actually hidden in the Siege. Today, although our lives are very different from those of 70 years ago, the three cities depicted in the walled city still weigh on us, which is one of the reasons why it has endured. 1. The city of marriage. Qian Zhongshu writes about the different experiences and feelings of the main characters in 4 kinds of love affairs, revealing the contradictory nature inherent in the walled city of marriage. During the siege, Fang Hongzhan has 4 love affairs. On the boat back to China, he meets the hot and spontaneous Mississippi Bao and has a relationship that comes to fruition. This is the first love of Fang Hongzhan, but it is the first love of Mississippi Bao. Fang Hongzhan is only the spice of her journey. After that, Fang met the arrogant Su Wen. This Mississippi Su is very different from the previous Mississippi Pao. But she is too high and cold, and even deliberately provokes the conflict between Fang and another suitor, trying to make the 2 rivals jealous for her. Although Fang Hongzhan also likes Mississippi Su, he is not willing to lower his status. The more kind-hearted Miss Su is, the more he refuses from the bottom of his heart. Later, in the former Mississippi Su's living room, Fang met the love of his life, Mississippi Su's cousin, Mississippi Tang. Miss Tang is different from those charming women outside. She is naive, straightforward, naughty, cute. Compared to Miss Bao, she is more youthful. Compared to Miss Su, she is more innocent. She is like a breeze, gently blowing into the heart of Fang Hong, gradually distressed. But later, because of Mississippi Su's provocation, the 2 lost in a misunderstanding and never saw each other again. The Jiang once said that Mississippi Tang was actually Qian Zhongshu's favorite son, so he deliberately arranged for Mississippi Tang not to marry Fang Hongzhan. The reason is that a beautiful love can only remain in the memory and imagination, but once it is realized in daily life, it will lose its original pure form. In the end, Fang met the most ordinary Mississippi Sunday. Although Miss Sun was not good in other aspects, she knew how to manage her marriage. She and Fang were originally peaceful colleagues, but they were so good at creating an ambiguous atmosphere that everyone in the office mistook them for a couple. When the pressure of public opinion was not enough to make him give in, Miss Sun forged a letter from her father. In the letter, she strongly questioned her relationship with Fang Hongzhan and urged her to get married in the meantime. In this way, she naturally became a victim of public pressure and patriarchal pressure. I am afraid that in the end, Fang Hongzhan married her, half out of pity and half out of helplessness. What I didn't expect was that Mississippi Sun was a completely different person before and after the marriage. She is no longer the weak little sheep who has no opinion. She seems ordinary, but has given Fang Hongzhan laid a trap. The first thing you need to do is to get a good idea of what you are getting into. Through the trajectory of Fang Hongzhan's love marriage, Qian Zhongshu reveals the nature of the inner contradictions of the city of marriage. The city of marriage is indeed like a city, as people who have experienced love know, and countless men and women come running around day and night for the goal of marriage. Some people can't wait to get out as soon as they enter, some keep wandering at the entrance or exit door, and many more enter and exit, not knowing where they are going in the end. 2. The city of occupations. The three jobs of the protagonist represent three ways for intellectuals to realize their self-worth. Bank economy saves the country, school education saves the country, and newspaper enlightenment saves the country. But the gap between dream and reality is always the most helpless part in the city of occupations. Although Fang was a student studying abroad, the profession he studied in Europe was puzzling. At first, he studied sociology and philosophy, but later he couldn't keep up and switched to Chinese literature. Unlike the current development of Chinese studies overseas, it was inexplicable for a Chinese student to study Chinese literature abroad in the international environment of the time. Moreover, he could not graduate properly because he did not finish his dissertation, so he had to buy a fake doctoral certificate and bring it home to lie to his parents. After returning to China, he moved around to 3 different places and took up 3 different jobs. Fang's first job after returning to China was in a bank. He was an international student who graduated with a degree in Chinese, but he joined the bank owned by his father-in-law. He lived a muddled life with nothing to do. Later, when times were turbulent, he had to leave his gentle hometown of Shanghai and go to a small county in Hunan with some friends to teach at the newly established Sanlu University during the war. When he first arrived at Sanlu University, he also wanted to teach students and help them to revitalize and transform the country. It is clear that his bones, there is blood. And a newly established university, the total number of students is only 100, its organizational structure is comparable to the huge gang system. Fang Hongzhan was ostracized everywhere in the school. He was originally hired as a professor, but when he officially joined, he only had the title of associate professor. No matter how hard he tried, he could not get the title of professor. The people in power in the school were all uneducated and incompetent, and those who had knowledge and ability did not give priority to teaching. Fang Hongzhan was distressed. He had easily changed to a new place, ready to start all over again, to give full play to his ambition, only to find that he had just fled from a bank-like city to a school-like city. The things that seem different are actually the same. Later, Fang Hongzhan was reported by his colleagues and expelled from school, so he had to leave Hunan and return to Shanghai. I was recommended by a friend and went to a newspaper. Fang Hongzhan was not discouraged. He thought that the nature of the newspaper and the school were the same, both were to develop people's wisdom and save them spiritually. But in fact, because there was no shortage of staff in all departments of the newspaper, Fang ended up taking charge of 2 publications, Family and Women and Culture and Art. None of the 3 jobs allowed him to realize his self-worth, and none of them even allowed him to live comfortably. Whenever he got a new job, he was initially filled with anticipation and joy, but when he had to change jobs, only great disappointment awaited him. He seems to be struggling to get out of one city, but in the end he is trapped in the prison of another city. 3. A city of his own. The desire for a sense of belonging and identity often becomes a shackle for people to imprison themselves. Throughout the novel, whether it is marriage or work, Fang Hongzhan is doing one thing, which is to seek a sense of belonging and identity. He clearly believes that the authenticity of knowledge is not directly related to the degree, but he still bought a fake diploma before returning to China with a guilty conscience. It seems that only proven knowledge is considered knowledge. He is also very weak in love. as if what others say is more convincing than what he does. He never seduced Mississippi Sue, nor did he promise her love, but when Mississippi Sue slandered him in front of Mississippi Tang, he was speechless and could not refute. When he finally married Miss Sun, it was even more inexplicable. It was because the other colleagues in the office and the elders in his hometown thought that he and Miss Sun were already a couple that he stepped into the trap set by the other side and took the initiative to marry Miss Sunday. In his professional career, he was even more ridiculous. When he was teaching at Sanlu University, he was obviously good at Chinese literature, but he was willing to teach a public discipline called theology. When I was an editor at a newspaper, I clearly wanted to be in charge of the economics and current affairs sections, but I ended up writing kitchen trivia about how to drizzle sesame oil on spinach. Fang Hongzhan is not an uneducated person. He does not follow the crowd in love, but has his own clear pursuit. He does not have his own expectations in his career. But he made a very fatal mistake. All his life, he tried to live the way others expected him to. This is the strongest and most difficult siege in people's minds. Fang's blind desire for a sense of belonging and identity makes it impossible for him to escape from his fettered fate, no matter how hard he struggles. The city of ego is the most impenetrable wall in the world. Qian Zhongshu is keenly aware of this, and he uses all his sarcasm and jokes to write about the difficulties and loneliness that we all cannot escape from in our lives through a small Fang Hongzhan. In fact, each of us can see our own shadow in the book. The walled city of life is like a cage of divine providence. If you are resigned to it, you can only wander and struggle between the different enclosures. If you want to break out of the cage, you may have to penetrate human nature and see through the world in order to face everything in the world with ease. Reading The Walled City, we can re-examine love, career, and self more clearly. The Walled City is a classic of modern Chinese fiction. Its unique satirical style is so intriguing that it has been hailed as the new Confucian history. It is a vivid picture of the world, reflecting the sweetness and sourness of life to the fullest. Mr. Qian combines his linguistic genius with his profound knowledge, and adds some satirical humor to provide a profound reflection and critique of society and culture, life and fate. For the Chinese, The Walled City is perhaps the most penetrating novel about human relationships and the ways of the world. It is about ordinary people in a previous era, but it is not unfamiliar to us today, simply because the world has similarities everywhere, and it is a walled city that we can all encounter. The Chinese literary critic Xiao Hiking has described Siege as the most interesting and heartfelt novel in modern Chinese literature, and perhaps the greatest. The book portrays a group of intellectuals at the beginning of the War of Resistance, and graphically reflects the ethics and confusion of a special group of people at a particular time in the country. It describes the scene and atmosphere of the time from another perspective. Despite the specific historical background, the human weaknesses revealed in this novel, as well as the irony and sadness deeper than all words and deeper than all laughter, still resonate deeply with people today. Overall, The Walled City is an excellent and valuable literary work. Through its reflections on human nature, society, culture, morality, and life, it demonstrates the literary talent and depth of thought of Mr. Qian Zhongshu, and reflects the reality and historical background of Chinese society at that time. Through reading The Walled City, we can better understand and appreciate the complexity and diversity of the human inner world, cultural diversity, social issues, moral concepts, and the meaning of life, as well as improve our literary literacy, depth of thought, and life experience to become more comprehensive and profound people. At the same time, The Walled City is also a work of great significance to modern Chinese literature and cultural traditions. Through the dialogue and collision between traditional Chinese culture and modern civilization, it demonstrates the plurality and innovative spirit of modern Chinese literature and culture, and also makes an important contribution to the spread and influence of Chinese literature and culture in the international arena. Therefore, it is of great significance and value to read and study The Walled City from the perspectives of literature, culture, thought, and life.